Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of For What It's Nerd. Today, we are here talking about the cancellation of the Acolyte. Now, this is a topic that is a fraught one, so we'll start pretty much straight into it, get to the facts, so to speak, and then a little bit of speculation thereafter. Now, I say a fact sort of loosely on this one because this has not been announced like specifically through Lucasfilm channels, though it is pretty strong that this is the case at this point. Basically, earlier in the week, it was announced by, I believe, Variety or the Hollywood Reporter, I forget which one, that essentially the behind the scenes talk is that the Acolyte has been cancelled. And um, I don't know how to feel about this because it feels like most shows, and I've read someone said this, most shows take about 2 seasons before they really get going. And it feels like because we're in this Netflix sort of demand for show era, let's say, I say Netflix because Netflix kind of started this all off. We have a lot of shows that have one season, kind of draw an audience in, and then we're left kind of with nothing, right? Most shows, even when they were poor, used to get a second season to kind of maybe tie up some loose ends. Like it would be, you usually had to be really, really bad to be cancelled that early on. Not saying that it doesn't happen, but it didn't. I don't think it happened as frequently as it does now. Now, what I also find interesting about this one is that apparently at the very same time that this has happened, a lot of the links and storefronts for Acolyte merchandise were taken down. And the rumors started to circulate, and this is what I mean by rumors, that this might be a tax write-off for Disney in some way, and that we might see the Acolyte expunged in entirety, considering it didn't do too well for them. And I don't know how to feel about those rumors. I think it's a bit of a scare after Warner Brothers Discovery did what they did. I'm not saying that Disney. I think Disney has very much the potential to do this like any other company does. You know, when it comes down to it, will they sacrifice art for the company? Probably yes, because they're a money making organization first. And even though it's kind of against their whole ethos as artists, so to speak, you know, sometimes the purse string calls, so to speak. So I'm not saying that they never would do it, but I don't think that this is the case. I mean, you know, Disney is doing fine in so many ways. Warner Brothers Discovery had a lot of other issues, and you know, anyway, I think that's a moot point. What is interesting though is that they have actually took down all the merchandise for the Acolyte, which basically, without saying it officially, confirms what everyone else is saying. So that's why I'm setting the groundwork that this has been cancelled. The Acolyte season 2 has been like is not happening. What I will say before that, though, before we continue on, is that we always thought it might not be happening. Very much like Shores of Eld, so to speak. Very much like a lot of the Marvel shows that Disney has put out. Very much like other Star Wars shows that Disney has put out so far. Some of these seem to be one-time events, and the implication so far with Acolyte is that that was true, because I remember in an interview, Leslie Headland said that she had ideas for a season 2, but it wasn't basically confirmed out of the gate. This isn't your Rings of Power situation where they've confirmed 5 seasons and that's what they're doing straight out of the gate. This isn't Andor that said, yes, we're going to be doing 2 seasons, even though originally, if you remember, Acolyte was Andor was doing 5, sorry. So, you know, hey, just keep an eye. Things do change. Things do change. Now, I'm not saying that Acolyte was the most successful show in the world. It wasn't. And there's a million different reasons from that, from it not being the best written, it not being the best put together show, but it had good parts. It had interesting characters. It focused on a new era of the Star Wars universe. It tried to do something fresh, and on top of all of that, it looked visually stunning in a lot of areas. Some were left slightly, you know, let down, kind of like slightly unreal surrounds, but generally, like the duels and stuff like that looked really great, and in fact, some maybe the best in Star Wars. So there were redeeming parts to Acolyte. I know that that doesn't mean anything when it comes down to money. The same thing happened with Solo. The same thing happened with with the Last Jedi to some degree. If the fan base doesn't like something and they vote with their wallet, what you're going to see is a response from Disney. And no matter how many people say, "Oh, that feels very cowardly to follow," Disney has a hard time being able to. Disney and Lucasfilm, should I say, have a hard time with this one, because what do? Do you listen to the fans who are your biggest money earner, even if their opinions are kind of morally questionable? Or do you kind of not and then have movies that suffer? And apologies to those who might think that the moral road is always the way should go. Again, Disney, Lucasfilm, they're not profitable non-profit organizations, so they say. They are there to make a profit. And even if they come out and say we don't tolerate this kind of behavior, we don't want this kind of behavior in our fandom, if it comes down to it, in the nicest possible way, they will make a movie that entices those people, because that's what Rise of Skywalker was. And it didn't do it well. I'm not saying it did it greatly, but that's what Rise of Skywalker was. It was a kickback to it was trying to do something that would appeal to the fans who previously had said that they're eschewing Star Wars from that point on. So, what I'm saying is, I think that the Acolyte Season 2 has been cancelled, or isn't going to happen, however you want to phrase it, because let's be honest, the show isn't necessarily cancelled, it was just not renewed, which is a totally different thing. What does that mean? What does that mean for Star Wars at the moment as a brand? What does it mean for that era of Star Wars? What does it mean for that story? As for Star Wars, I don't think it's going to hit. As for Star Wars as a whole, they'll just move on. Nothing really is impacted by Acolyte right now, aside from the small mention of, implication of Plagueis being part of that storyline down the line if it continued on. That's not really going to happen now, at least on screen, so I wouldn't worry about that. Secondly, I think you have already shows in the pipeline. You have Andor, you have your Grogu, you have your Skeleton Crew, which arguably I think might go the same way as Acolyte, but we'll see. And I think that Star Wars is already 10 steps ahead. Acolyte is like old news, even further old news than our old news. It's like 10 years old news for you know what I'm getting at. The idea is that they've probably already moved on from this, like they moved on from Solo, which was where I was trying to go with the point previously, is that Solo was not a great movie, and for a lot of people financially, and so they kind of nixed the anthology idea. And it feels like they're doing the same thing again, because it seems like, and this is what I think is the bigger issue with Star Wars, it's not necessarily that they're going to stop making stuff. By the way, they did stop making movies because of that, to a degree. Not necessarily that they're going to stop making stuff, because they will keep using the Star Wars IP regardless of whether we like it, regardless of whether we don't. They bought an IP, they're going to use it. And I don't blame them for that in a way. That's kind of the business of it. But what I've lost my train of thought. 1 second. Let me reel it back in. What I think is really telling is that when these shows come out, we get a kickback for anything that's a little bit different. Star Wars is stuck in the same rut that it was right back after Return of the Jedi came out, not aired, but you know what I mean. Basically, everything after that that's anywhere near colossal in impact, that isn't a book, that isn't the extended universe, that is now defunct, by the way, everyone's railed against. Episode 1, Episode 2, Episode 3, 7, 8, 9, the Clone Wars initially, Rebels initially. This is the cycle of Star Wars, and it really is grating, because it feels like you can't move forward. And don't get me wrong, did I love Acolyte's kind of interpretation of the history prior to the movies? No, not in all places. Do I love it in the High Republic books? No, not in all places. But do I understand and appreciate that that's separate from my Star Wars The Old Republic love, or my KOTOR love, and that those two can exist simultaneously because they come from different timelines, so to speak, within the Star Wars universe as we know it. Yeah, I can do that. So what people need to do is, in my opinion, those people who don't like these pieces of Star Wars either watch and try and interpret them separately to the media that you've consumed before, or watch and understand that the media you liked before, no matter how bad this piece of property is still okay, it is still as good as it was prior to you watching that. And the third one, stop watching. Because the point changes what I said earlier about the fan base. If you are no longer a fan, Star Wars can make the stuff it wants to make, not the stuff that you're dictated to make. And I understand what you're saying. I understand that you want the exact same movie rehashed 10 more times before you like croak it, and that's in the nicest possible way. But it gets boring. No one wants episode 4 done like episode 7, like episode 11, 10, sorry, it would be. No one wants that repeatedly, thanks. No one needs that repeatedly. So anyway, that's my opinion on that. Now, with that all said, there is, of course, still going to be continuation in this period of Star Wars. The High Republic brand is still going strong. In fact, I think it might be coming to an end this year, later this year, if I remember correctly, or early next. But that has gone really strong. That has been a really powerful tool for the Star Wars brand to do new things. I wonder what's going to come after that. But I do wonder maybe if the show impacted that a little in the negative, because I feel like the show was intended to go, hey, this is the High Republic. There's that stuff over there. Go and read the books. Go and read the comics. And I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen now, of course. But saying that in the opposite direction, that is the way you continue this story if you want to. If you want to do stuff outside of the movies, which is frustrating because I'd rather see it in a movie or a show. But if you want to kind of continue this story of Osha, of May, of all those characters, Indara, the Stranger, etc., there's book format. There is a book coming out for Indara and oh gosh, I forget the name, Venestra, sorry. There's a Jackie and Yord book coming apparently as well, and a Kelnaka comic as well. So there is still stuff with those characters being involved in the movies. Now, unless those get tax written off as well or discontinued, not going to happen. Who knows? I think they'll continue because generally the book fans are a more tolerant, more tolerant members of the Star Wars community in the nicest possible way. They're less reactionary to the media. They kind of consume it and understand it because they know what it's like to get trash because they used to get it all the time in the old. I'm just joking. But I think generally the book readers can look at stuff a little bit more analytically because, how do I put this nicely? You're reading books, generally you're a lot more of an analytical person. And that's not a slight against anyone who doesn't read Star Wars books. That's not a slight against anyone who doesn't read generally at all. Apart from it is a little bit on that one because you should read something even if it's not Star Wars books. But I genuinely believe that it's a bit more of a tolerant part of the community. So hopefully we see Acolyte continue in some way in the future. Whether that does end up being a season 2, that is just kind of being delayed or left for now, or whether it ends up being books, or whether it ends up being in another show. If you remember, that's what happened with Clone Wars in the end. Clone Wars got canned early, and so they moved some of that story and some of those characters over into Star Wars Rebels. So it can always happen. You never know what's going to happen next. And yeah, let's keep a positive mindset for those who did enjoy Acolyte. If you didn't enjoy Acolyte, that's fine too. You're okay to not like it. Just don't take this as a victory against the wokeness of Star Wars, because that's not what this is. This is a business decision based on the fact that certain people didn't watch. And that is essentially the same goal for you guys, maybe, for those watching. Yeah. So congrats to you in that way, I guess. But Disney doesn't care about your opinion, really, in the nicest possible way. It cares about the money you pay. So whether you like a show or not, it's kind of irrelevant to them. Anyway, with that thought, yeah, thank you guys for watching and listening as always. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Next week, I think we'll be discussing if the Rings of Power comes out. I will hopefully be able to watch a bit of that, if not the whole thing, and we'll come back and discuss that. It's been a while since we discussed season 1, and I know there are a lot of mixed feelings on this show, but I'm quite excited actually. I still haven't dipped into the world of Tolkien in book format, but I do enjoy The Lord of the Rings as a general media source. So yeah, we'll definitely see what's to come with that. Thank you guys as always for watching. I'll see you later.